Welcome once again, this time to the third and final part in our About God series. As is my custom, I take the opportunity to acknowledge the Bunurong people of the Kulin Nation as the custodians of the land upon which I live, thanking them for their care of country and paying respects to their elders, past, present and emerging. Today, as I said, is the third and final instalment in my About God series. In the first part of the series, I shared my belief that God is not some external being or force that we humans must honour and obey or else, but that God in some deeply spiritual and mystical way is within us, part of us. That God, or however we choose to name God, is essentially the best, purest, most creative and constructive elements of our essential human nature. And that any quest to experience God or to know God best starts within, with the quest to know ourselves, with the quest to claim, revel in, and cherish those holy moments of deep awareness of the mystical presence of God within us. And then in part two, under the banner Finding Our Way Home, I suggested that the home for which we yearn is not a God somewhere out there, but a God who chooses to make a home with us and within us, integrally and essentially a part of our deepest being. We're learning that the ultimate reality we call God is discovered as a mystical presence deep within us, a presence that informs our life, shapes our deepest self, and satisfies our deepest longings. So what might we expect with this final part with the theme Knowing God? Well, it may not be what you expect. We tend to use the word know in its intellectual or academic sense. So to know God would mean to know about God, to learn about God, perhaps even to understand God. But today we're going in a different direction with the word know. Do you recall the movie Avatar? Specifically, do you recall how the people of Pandora greet each other? I see you, Jake, or I see you, Neytiri. Now, we know this greeting is not about visibility or eyesight. It's about seeing, really seeing, seeing with and through the heart. I see you, they say, meaning I know you, deeply know you. Well, that's the concept that we are pointing to with our theme, Knowing God. And I hope you'll enjoy the journey as we unpack it today. It's good to have you along for the ride. The biblical text that will elucidate our conversation today is another from the fourth gospel. It's the passage that follows immediately on from the passage we looked at in the previous session. This week it's John chapter 14 and verses 15 to 21. This passage has confounded me for years. Even studying it as part of the fourth gospel subject under Dr. Basil Brown at Whitley College didn't bring clarity. It's possible, of course, that the fact that we were studying it in Koine Greek added significantly to my confusion. But even in English, it's strange. I mean, what are we to make of verses 19 and 20, which say, in a little while, the world will no longer see me, but you will see me, because I live, you also will live. On that day, you will know that I am in my Father, and you in me, and I in you. Well, it's another passage that requires us to let go of the deeply ingrained concept of God as a separate entity somewhere out there, and conceive of God as a mystical presence that is deeply anchored within all of creation and within each of us. If we can do that, words of Jesus such as these begin to make sense. Hear these words from Jim Palmer of the Centre for Non-Religious Spirituality. Writes Palmer, "There is no sky god in heaven who is going to protect you from the volatility of the lived human experience. But there is a deep-seated serenity, tranquility, and equanimity that you can access at the centre of yourself and all things. There is no special enlightened leader or teacher who can finally show you the highest truth that sets you free. But you are capable of utilising your own critical thinking, direct experience, and personal investigation to discover and embrace ultimate reality. There is no perfect person or life where everything is good, lovely, cheery, untroubled, blissful, and blessed. But no circumstance or shitstorm can strip you of your choice to honour what matters most to you. Follow your highest truth, deepen your humanity, and discover that love, beauty, and goodness wins." Well, my thesis is this: that the goodness, the generosity of spirit, the moral compass, the grace, the kindness that you sense and know within yourself, that's the spirit. That's the mystical presence, the essence of God within you. So the ultimate reality that the word God points to is no less than the deep core of my being. Says Palmer, "My essential self is a manifestation of that one infinite, timeless, limitless, pure, whole, complete, undisturbed, untroubled, peaceful, and radiant ultimate reality at the heart of all existence. The innate qualities of my true nature empower me to skillfully and meaningfully participate in the lived human experience with wisdom, compassion, strength, courage, and love." I can imagine Jesus saying something just like that. Let me be clear. That doesn't mean that I equate myself with God or so personalize God that I claim to have all wisdom and don't need to listen to anyone else. Quite the opposite, actually. It implies that God is as much a part of everyone else as God is of me. And that discernment of what we have typically labelled God's will is a communal exercise. We will discern the prompting of God's Spirit together as we attend to and critique each one's intuitive awareness or gut feeling, if you like. And furthermore, we can't ignore the reality of the shadow side, the dark side, the struggle between that which I will to do and that which I actually do, as the Apostle Paul put it. The quest to know God, that yearning for meaning and inner peace, is thus about learning to discern and listen to the mystical presence within us so that we can live more and more consistently out of that place and move more and more toward the home that is our ultimate yearning. Maybe that's a good spot to pause a little and create some space for reflection. Why don't you take a moment right now to mull over something that has been sparked in your mind or your heart in this series about God. You might prefer to simply listen to this poem from Joyce Rupp, which is entitled "Old Maps No Longer Work," and see what ripples they set off for you.
I keep pulling it out, the old map of my inner path. I squint closely at it, trying to see some hidden road that maybe I've missed. But there's nothing there now, except some well-travelled paths. They have seen my footsteps often, held my laughter, caught my tears. I keep going over the old map, but now the road leads nowhere. A meaningless wilderness where life is dull and futile. Toss away the old map, she says. You must be kidding, I reply. She looks at me with Sarah eyes and repeats, toss it away. It's no use where you're going. I have to have a map, I cry. Even if it takes me nowhere, I can't be without direction. But you are without direction, she says. So why not let go? Be free. So there I am, tossing away the old map, sadly, fearfully, putting it behind me. Whatever will I do? Wails my security. Trust me, says my midlife soul. No map? No specific directions? No this way ahead or take left? How will I know where to go? How will I find my way? No map? But then my midlife soul whispers. There was a time before maps, when pilgrims travelled by the stars. It is time for the pilgrim in me to travel in the dark, to learn to read the stars that shine in my soul. I will walk deeper into the dark of my night. I will wait for the stars, trust their guidance, and let their light be enough for me.
So where does all this leave us? Do you think it's possible that Jesus' own understanding was more akin to that of a mystical presence of God with and within each of us than of a God who somehow stands outside of creation, pulling the strings to make it all work, for better and for worse? You know what I reckon? I reckon that most of us have played with this idea, perhaps even held this idea for a while. But maybe we haven't been given permission to own it or to articulate it. So we keep it a secret, keep it sort of tucked away in the back of our mind as something we think about but aren't sure about expressing. Well, perhaps it's time to unlock those backroom thoughts and share them with others. Because, well, that's the best way to test whether they just might be the movement of the Spirit within you. Does anyone else think what I'm thinking? Does this idea resonate with anyone else? Is this a thought worth exploring? You see, if your thoughts arise from that God space within you, then it's unlikely that you'll be alone in thinking them. Hear these words from John Lennon back in the 1970s. God, he said, is too big for one religion. At one level, all religious traditions have the same aim, to transform the individual into a positive being. I believe in God, but not as one thing, not as an old man in the sky. I believe that what people call God is something within all of us. When all is said and done, I don't know whether what I've been saying in these 3 videos is right or wrong, orthodoxy or heresy. But I feel the need to put it out there and invite you to play with it, to bounce off it, to respond to it. Does it resonate with your gut instinct? Does it stir your thoughts or remind you of directions you've considered before? Is there something worth teasing out in your own mind over the coming days or weeks? I offer these thoughts not as one who has authority or as one who has answers. Indeed, my journey across 45 years of ministry has not led me to a place of certainty about God. Rather, it's led me to a place of blessed uncertainty, a place of delightful ambiguity, where perhaps the most I can say about God is that for me, God is becoming bigger and bigger, vaguer and vaguer, gentler and gentler. Thank you for watching this series.